All right, so I'm going to go right into it. So when you think of praise and worship, what are the first things that come to mind? And you don't have to answer out loud, but think to yourself. You think praise, you think worship. Most of the time, for many of us, it's the fast songs and the slow songs. The fast songs are the praise. The slow songs are the worship. So that's kind of in our mind. That's kind of how it's set up. That's kind of how we comprehend it and we think about it. The truth is that it goes so much more deeper than that. Many churches today and many people, they like to focus on the worship aspect of it, but not so much on the praise. They want to focus on the worship, how it makes me feel. You know, it's a time you could just be quiet. You can just kind of sit there with your thoughts and you worship God, but not so much on praise. Worship comes from within. It comes from how we feel. But praise is something different altogether. Praise is something that we have to put on. So whereas when I want to worship, it's based on my feelings, you know. Whether I feel like I've been a failure, or whether I feel like, you know, I'm so far from God and we worship, Lord, forgive me. God, I love you. Lord, I praise you. Praise, on the other hand, praise is something that we don't always feel like doing. Praise is something that causes us to actually have to do something, to actually have to go off of something more than just how we feel. In Isaiah 61:3, I think it may be, say 61:35 in your notes, which is or 61:53. That's wrong. There's not 53 verses in Isaiah 61. So it's Isaiah 61:3. It says, "The Spirit of the Lord has given us," and I'm not gonna read the whole scripture, but it's given us the oil of joy for mourning and the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Praise is a garment. What that tells us is that praise isn't something that comes built in. It's not always a natural response to our current situation. How many of us wake up in the morning and the first thing we feel like doing is jumping to our feet and praising God? Or, okay, some of us do. That's great. I do not. I do not. I'm just going to tell you, I'm not a morning person. My wife, after 15 years of marriage, she's come to realize this, that you just steer clear. Don't ask me a lot of questions. Don't start hammering me with all of these details, with all of this information. I want to be left alone. That's just how I am. Coffee is the only thing I want you to come with me or come at me with in the morning. Nothing else, just coffee. Then maybe halfway through we can begin some sort of a dialogue, but it's going to be shaky still. So it's not a natural response. Praise isn't. It's something that, whereas worship, and I kind of said this a little bit earlier, whereas worship is based on feeling, you know, when we worship God, you know, it's us and God. And so we can have those moments of, you know, of heaviness. We love to get into worship. I've seen some of you worship, you know, you love it. Snot running down your face. You don't care. Arms lifted high, you know, almost like your back's about to break. But we love it. We eat it up. But praise is something we kind of we come in, music's pumping, everybody's excited, you know, clapping. You see people dancing around on stage. And it's like, what's that all about? Why are they doing that? You know, I don't feel like, let's get to the worship. Let's get to the heavy. Let's get to where I could just get in his presence. But you see, praise is our defense against the spirit of heaviness. So it says, put on the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. So what is the spirit of heaviness? It comes in many forms. Depression, anxiety, bills, your kids sometimes, your spouse. I mean, the world loves to put these things and pile these things on our shoulders. And before we know it, the last thing we want to do is come in somewhere and throw our hands up or come in somewhere and get excited, because you may have just, I know growing up, and Dad, forgive me, I'm gonna spill some beans here. But I could remember in the mornings getting ready for church, and it would be chaos. I mean, it was my sisters, it wasn't me. It was, but my mom having to fix their hair, and my mom having, and them screaming because there was tangles, and they always had long blonde hair, and and it was always such a chaotic time. And then on the way to church, no one's talking, because everybody's upset because of what has happened. And then you get to the church, and then it's like you'd flip a switch, And to me, that's what I would think. I think, well, how, we were just in a knockdown drag out. Now we're going to worship. I mean, and we may feel like that sometimes. Sometimes you may feel like, oh, I'm such a hypocrite right now because but that's the appropriate response when it comes to praise. When it comes to praise, it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what's happened, because when we begin to praise, something in the spirit begins to happen. When you begin to praise, something begins to happen that wasn't there before. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. But it's our defense against the spirit of heaviness. It unlocks the joy of the Lord that he intended for us to have all along. And some of us walk around every day wondering why we can't get rid of this heaviness, why we can't get rid of this deep depression or this anxiety. And then we'll come to church and it's time to praise. We're around people who are praising. Maybe the person next to us, we're thinking, oh, they settle down. I mean, don't they know they can't even sing? They're singing off key. And you wonder to yourself, where do I get that joy? How do I get that? It's not that you got that. It's something that you put on. It's something that you put on. So today, the title of the message is Put Your Praise On. Put your praise on, because it is something that has to be put on. If you look at our military, you look at law enforcement, or even, football's coming up, so you look at football. They have equipment that they have to wear. If you're in law enforcement, one of the things you put on is bulletproof vest. If you're in the military, you have bulletproof vest, you have helmet, you have body armor, you have your weapons. If you're a football player, you pad it up. So these are things that they have at their disposal. These are things that they have to protect them from what's going to be coming at them. It may not always feel comfortable. You may not always want to take the extra time it takes to do all of this, but they know that there could be somebody out there who literally is gunning for them, trying to take their life. And this could be the only thing that comes between them and a bullet. Or if you're a football player, it's the only thing that comes between you and somebody trying to take your head off. It's a necessity. They don't think twice about it. It's something that they've been taught from a young age, coming up, that is something that you have to do. So do you think for a minute, they would wake up and say, you know what, not today. I think I'm just going to go out there, no pads, no helmet, just throw me the ball. Maybe I can run a little bit faster. No way. Because somebody hits you and you're done. It's the same thing with our praise. It's something that we have to put on. You have to put it on. It requires action. It's a daily choice that we make, whether we feel like it or not. It isn't in you, it's on you. What does that mean? It's not in you, it's on you. Worship comes from within. Praise is an outwardly. It's called a garment of praise for a reason. I know there's been several times when, you come in on Sunday morning and it's like, okay, we got to get up here. We got to have a lot of energy. I got to praise. And I don't feel like it. I know you're saying, Pastor Josh, what do you mean? You're the worship pastor. You always feel like, no, I don't. I really, really don't. But it's something that once you step into it, once you put that praise on, once you put the garment of praise on, it's like everything else just kind of falls away. Everything else just kind of falls to the side because you begin to focus on what's really important. You begin to focus on what really matters. Praise, this garment of praise, it's within reach. So what that means is it's something that we've been given. It's something that we have with us. We carry with us everywhere we go. So you may not have woke up this morning and you may not have started your day off with praise. But at any time during your day, it's something you put the garment of praise on. You begin to praise. You begin to thank the Lord. You begin to call out his name. And your life can turn around, that your day can turn around simply just like that. This is why we begin our service with praise. That's why it's called praise and worship. It's actually biblical. In Psalms 104, David says, enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Be thankful to him and bless his name. Not after you've been there for a while, but when you enter in, begin to praise. Because if you enjoy worship now, if you enjoy having those moments of deep, intense prayer and deep, intense worship, wait till you've started with praise. And you've taken the time to get the heaviness off. You've taken the time to put the garment of praise on, to say, Lord, I know it doesn't look good right now, but I'm going to praise you anyway. I know what it looks like right now, but I know what you say it's going to look like. And you begin to tell yourself, you begin to remind yourself, that's why we do it together. That's why we praise together, because guess what? If I come in, I may not be feeling good. Somebody sitting next to me, they start worshiping. It's infectious. It catches on. You hear somebody, start shouting and somebody start dancing. Next thing you know, okay, maybe I can start dancing a little bit. You start moving. Feet starts moving a little bit. This doesn't feel so bad, Maybe you start clapping your hand, move a little back and forth. When I was growing up, this was like the acceptable. This was as far as your dancing went. It didn't get any further than that. Keep your hips still. Don't start shaking nothing. Because you don't know what's going to happen. Literally, okay. This isn't in my notes, but I remember one time, the church that I grew up in, it was a small church, but Dad played guitar on stage. My uncle played bass on stage. My grandma was the song leader. It wasn't a worship She was the song leader. We led out of a hymnal, so it's like my whole family's on stage playing and praising and stuff. And we're singing hymns. And I don't remember if it was when we used to have those old timey revivals. I know you remember, they go on for weeks. But I remember, I want to say it was the pastor's wife, and she's dancing and she's praising. Next thing you know, her skirt just begins to, and she doesn't stop. She doesn't stop. And so somebody runs up, pulls the skirt up. She just keeps going. Skirt just keeps sliding down, pull it back up. And I thought to myself, this must be what happened to King David. When he was dancing before the Lord, he just didn't care. Because when you get in there, when you step into this worship, when you put on that garment of praise, it doesn't matter what's going on around you. It doesn't matter. If you wait, if you say, you know what, there's just too many problems right now, too many things going on right now, I'll wait, then you may never experience the true freedom or the true joy that you were intended to have. Think about it. Paul and Silas, most of us, I would probably say all of us have at least heard the story. They're in prison. What if they had decided to wait until the shackles? But instead they began to praise, and what happened? The shackles fell off. The prison doors busted open. It not only affected them, it affected everyone around them. Because when you begin to praise, it catches on. You begin to pull people in. You begin to praise. It's infectious, and it's meant to be that because God, that's the way that God created us. So praise. So then I ask, why is it something that we tend to overlook, that so many churches overlook? Praise kind of works as a palate cleanser, if you will. It's something whenever you start in, you begin to praise, we push everything aside, and you get ready to spend time with God. Imagine if the children of Israel, when they were marching around Jericho for 7 days, absolutely quiet, and nothing happened. When did the walls fall down? Anybody? When they shout, when they lift up as one voice and begin to shout. God told them to do this. They didn't say, but God, why? Why do we have to march around? What do we say when we shout? You know? What key are we going to be in? You know, what do we do? After they had been silent, nothing had happened. But they were obedient. And then the seventh time, on the seventh day, they blow the trumpets and they begin to shout, not knowing what's going to happen. And the walls come falling down, you know, the walls of Jericho. I mean, that had to have been an amazing sight. We have walls in our life. We have things that bind us. There's a spirit of heaviness on us. But when we begin to praise is when these things begin to change, is when they begin to shift. So there's 3 things that praise does. The first thing, praise focuses on God, not me. It works like a magnifying glass. It shifts our focus from our current problem or our current situation to the problem solver. Because us as human beings, us as people, we tend, something goes wrong, and that's what our focus is on. So if I wake up, if me and my wife get into a fight, one, it's always going to be my fault. I'm just going to say that right there. It's always my fault. That's what I'm supposed to say anyway. But my attention begins to focus on that. And I focus on how, you know, the enemy comes in and start, you know, you're a failure as a husband. Or maybe I get mad at my kids and I yell and I scream and, you know, discipline them out of anger. And they walk away and I begin to think, I failed as a father. Or I failed as a husband. Or maybe you look in your life and things financially aren't going as you have planned, or you may be struggling in specific areas, and you think to yourself, I failed as a provider. And so our focus is on this, you know, and that becomes all we can see. But when we decide to put on this garment of praise, what we're telling not only ourselves, but what we're telling the devil, what we're telling the enemy, the one who is trying to destroy us every day. He doesn't take a day off. I don't know if you guys know that. He doesn't take a day off. But what we do is we're proclaiming, we're standing on God's word, and we're saying, I know what it looks like, but I also know what it's going to look like. David says, in Psalms 34, 3-4, it says, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together." So when you magnify the Lord, when you praise, that's what you see. That's the thing that gets bigger in your life. Because if you think about whatever's magnified, whatever's focused on, that thing begins to get bigger. So if you start your day off focusing on God, if you start your day off magnifying the Lord, then you're setting yourself up for the rest of the day. And this is the thing, is it doesn't stop there. You may say, I praised this morning. What's going on? Well, he's going to keep coming at you. But anytime that garment You got it on. Just begin to praise. If you I've seen some people driving down the road singing, and I don't know if they're praising God. I don't know if but so when you get in your car, just let loose. Because everybody else is doing it. I do it. And, those are those are times when we're alone and we praise, and there's great benefit to that. Number 2, praise reminds me of the eternal, and it takes our eyes off of the temporary. 2 Corinthians 4:8-9 says, we are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed. We are perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, struck down, but not destroyed. We used to sing a song, I'm pressed, but not crushed, persecuted, not abandoned. I know you remember that. Pressed down, but not destroyed. See, what we're doing is we're saying, I'm hard pressed, but I'm not crushed. I'm perplexed, but I'm not in despair. We're taking what we see right now and we're saying, this may be my current situation, but this is not the end. This is not how I'm going to be. This is not how you've called me to be. So our eyes become focused on the eternal. Number 3, praise causes me to step out of my comfort zone. Now, this is a big one here because we like our comfort zone. We live inside our comfort zone. We love our comfort zone. I love my comfort zone. And I don't like being pulled out of that comfort zone. If you see me ever kind of standing by myself, that's my comfort zone. You would think because of what I do, I would be, you got to be a people person. By nature, I'm not. My wife is. She loves being social and being all around people, but me, I'm not. I'm always afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm always afraid I'm going to put my foot in my mouth, so I'm like, well, I just won't say anything. I'll just kind of stand over here and drink my coffee. But what praise does is it causes us to step out of our comfort zone. And I've said this before, I'll say it again, worship is inward, but praise is outward. It's nothing but outward. So imagine, and I've heard this, is, I'm praising in my heart. I'm just going to stand here, though. I'm not even going to really sing. I'm not going to clap. But I'm praising. I don't want to burst your bubble, but you're not. Imagine if you were to, you're home, you're married, you have your wedding ring on. But anytime you leave the house, you say, I'm going to go ahead and take this, put this right here, and I'm going to go ahead out on my day. I love you in my heart, but you've taken off the outward expression of your commitment. And then you get home and you put the ring back on. And what, I carried, I knew I was married. I carried you in my heart. That would not work. I know it wouldn't in my household. Nothing about that would work. It's the same thing with God. You've got to realize that whenever we say, God, I'm not going to praise you because I'm not comfortable with it, it offends God. Just like you would offend your spouse for saying, I'm not going to praise because I'm not comfortable with it. And we, as ministers, I've said it, I'm guilty of it, we'll say, if you're comfortable. We can do that. We can decide whether to praise or not if we're comfortable. But if we do that, if we say, I'm not comfortable, so I'm not going to do it, then that heaviness that's on you is always going to be on you. This isn't something that is like, this is just one way. This is the way. This is the way. Praise cannot be omitted from your life. If I stop telling my wife I love her, and I'm using her as a lot tonight, but if I stop telling her I love her, there's going to be consequences and repercussions. It's the same. He constantly in the Bible refers to the bride and the bridegroom. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that. It's an expressive action. It may make you uncomfortable, but that's why it's a sacrifice. Hebrews 13:15 says, therefore by him let us continually offer the sacrifice to God. That is the fruit of our lips giving thanks to his name. The fruit of our what? Our lips giving thanks to his name. It's meant to be a sacrifice because a sacrifice is us laying down ourselves and submitting to something higher, giving it something higher. We praise with our hands, we praise with our mouth, we praise with our feet. You may say, well, that's a little, start off like this. Feels good. You know? And then move on. Sing, start off singing. I'm not saying tomorrow, next time we come in here and we begin to praise, kick off your shoes and just start marching around the joint. Work your way into it. Work your way into it. But then you find, once you have that feeling, once you see the benefit of praise, it's freedom. That's what it is. So, to prove this point, that praise requires action, that praise requires something out of you, we're going to look at 7 different things. We're going to look at, you're thinking, 7? You already gave 3 points. Now you're talking about 7? In the English language, when we say praise, we have one word for it, praise. But if you look, the Old Testament was written in Hebrew, which Psalms, where we get all, the majority of our scriptures and verses on praise, was written in Hebrew. And in the Hebrew language, there's 7 words for praise. And each one of them have a different meaning. So, if you look at your notes, the first one is halal. It means to be clear, to praise, to shine, to boast, show, to rave, celebrate, and this is my favorite one, to be clamorously foolish. Foolish. A lot of times we'll go into a place or we'll see somebody praising and you begin to judge that person. I know how he lives. I know what you do during the week. Or you look and you're like, what are they doing? What's with all this? It's biblical. That's in halal, we get it. We get our word hallelujah from the word halal. Halal, hallelujah. And in Psalms 149:3, it says, let them praise, or halal, that's the original word that was used, his name with the dance. Let them sing praises to him with the timbrel and harp. In our language, that would be the tambourine, which are off limits. But the harp's okay, keyboard, guitar, it's got strings. No, I'm kidding. Mom used to play the tambourine. My mom would work that tambourine. And she never liked to sing, or she wouldn't, it was just right there on the pew. And I'm thinking, she's got to have a bruise on her hip. And then when our church burned down, her tambourine burnt down with it. Did that stop her? Nope. She went and bought a new one. It was red. I remember it. She may still have it. The next one is yada. Not to be confused with Yoda. It's a verb with the meaning the extended hand, to throw out the hand. Therefore, to worship with extended hand, to lift the hands. It says hands a lot. So there's got to be some importance to what we're doing with these. Clapping, praising. Because if you think about it, if your hands are up or out or clapping, you can't very well be holding on to anything. Heavy, light, whatever. Your hands have to be free. They have to be empty. Yada. It says, did I already read the scripture? No, I didn't. Let them praise, or yada, the Lord for his great love and for the wonderful things he has done for them. Psalms 107:15. Next word, tauda. Tauda. I don't know how to pronounce it. Tauda. Literally means an extension of the hand in adoration or acceptance, thanking God for things not yet received, as well as things already in hand. Whoever offers praise, or tauda, glorifies me, and to him who orders his conduct aright, I will show the salvation of God. Psalms 50:23. So whoever offers this praise, I like how it specifies to receive. Your arms are out, your hands out to receive what you don't yet have. So there we go back to, I'm not praising God for where I'm at now. I'm praising him for where I'm going to be. I'm speaking. We sang the song, I want to see a victory. I want to see a victory. For the battle belongs to the Lord. Not saying I have seen a victory. We're saying I want to see a victory. I'm going to see a victory, I think is what it's saying. Because we're speaking things not as though they are, but as though they're going to be. Fourth word, shabach, means to shout, to address in a loud tone, to command, to triumph. Psalms 47:1 says, "Oh, clap your hands, all you peoples, shout," or shabach, to God with the voice of triumph. You can't be quiet. Praise requires volume, I would say. And I heard one time, there was this preacher, his name is Francis Chan. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. He's written a lot of great books. But one day, pastors a very big church, and one day after the service, he's walking through, and a lady comes up to him, and she says, "You know what? The service was great. I enjoyed the message, but the praise and worship was a little too loud." He looks at her, he goes, "That's okay. We weren't praising or worshiping you." Because we're not. It's not about you. It's not about me. We're worshiping God. You know, as Pastor was saying, you know, he's the center of it all. He's the one. You know, that's who we're worshiping. Number 5, barak, means to kneel down, to bless God as an act of adoration, to salute. Psalms 95:6 says, "Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel," or barak, before the Lord our Maker. The 6th one says zamar, means to pluck the strings of an instrument, to sing, to praise a musical word which is largely involved with joyful expression of music, with musical instruments. Psalms 21:13 says, "Be exalted, O Lord, in your own strength. We will sing and praise," or zamar, "your power." So what we do up here is not just something we're doing for entertainment purposes. This is biblical. We are praising God. We're worshiping God the way that we've been commanded to do so. I don't see how, thankfully, all the churches that I grew up in and went to, they always had a band or some form of band. But, I've heard of some churches who, they don't allow the guitar. It's all piano. Or they don't allow the drums. That's not what God is commanding us to do. He doesn't want our praise to be subdued. You're not trying to impress anyone but him. And the last, number 7, tehillah, means the singing of halals, to sing or to laud, perceived to involve music, especially singing hymns of the Spirit or praise. But you are wholly enthroned in the praises or Tehillah of Israel. Psalms 22:3. See, praise requires something from us. It's a choice. It's not good enough to say, I just don't feel comfortable, or it's just not my style. The Bible's very clear on what praise is. And it's just as clear on what praise does. God has called us to put on the garment of praise. Every day. No matter where we are or how we feel. It is a sacrifice. It has cost. But the question isn't, can I afford to praise? It's, can I afford not to? Because all this on the outside is just temporary, guys. But what we're doing is something eternal. So I've asked the band to come up, and we did the song for a reason tonight, Sea of Victory. Because one, it's not your typical praise in that it's fast but what we're doing, we're praising. I want to see a victory. I'm going to see a victory. The battle belongs to the Lord. So as we sing this, don't hold back. Whatever it is in your life, whatever it is that may be hurting you, whatever it is that you may be struggling with, the heaviness, the depression, the anxiety, the thoughts that you're just not good enough. Know this, that is not the thoughts of the Father towards you. Set all that aside. Begin to praise and let the heaviness fall. Guess what? You're going to get up in the morning. You may have to do it again. At lunchtime, you may have to do it again. Before you go to bed, you may have to do it again. But why should that stop us? This is crucial to our walk. It's crucial to our relationship.